Tight ends, those thankless warriors who often have to block first before they actually get the ball. But imagine when one of those big boys has to deal with an injury. We're going to do it right now because bienvenidos and welcome to the Injury Prone Podcast. Make sure you follow and hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hey, Injury Prone Podcast, hit there. I'm Jorge Martin. Let's bring in el doctor Edwin Porras. ¿Cómo estamos, compa? Hey, I got a question for you. You know, I know you still do so much baseball work, but with so many pitchers getting hurt, can I donate my healthy UCLs? So I'm not using them right now.
Well, listen, I'll tell you that those guys' UCLs didn't hold up, compadre. I hate to tell you, yours probably wouldn't hold up any better. I'm not sure you could bundle those together. I don't know, we bundle all four of ours together if it would hold up to a 98 mile per hour slider. So let's just leave the UCLs intact. Let's not, perform any surgeries on anybody that doesn't need to, especially for people like you and I who are just armchair quarterbacks, armchair pitchers.
I know. I think I hit 61 once. So that was I don't know how those tendons would hold up, and I don't know how much I'd hold up left-handed. So, but hey, always willing. I once wanted to donate a hamstring to Magic Johnson when he pulled his. So that they turned me down on that one. But compa, let's talk some tight ends today. And I mean, these guys, they're built like Avengers, 6'5", 6'6", 250, 260 pounds. They run like the wind. They have to block. They're built like Adonises. It kind of figures that it was one of these superheroes that was going to date Taylor Swift and actually, hang on to her for a while. But, these guys aren't flawless. These big guys, they do suffer some injuries, and we've done a great series so far, tackling the position groups, and we're going to close it out with the tight ends because there are some significant guys who are coming off of injuries, some major, some minor. But compa, when these guys get hurt, especially when it's in the lower half and they're bigger bodies, obviously the tendons are big, the tendons and the cartilage and all that are bigger, but have you seen that this could take a little bit longer than average people like you and me?
Well, a hamstring injury for a wide receiver is obviously going to be different than a hamstring injury for a tight end. And you might actually have the tight end return and be able to do things like block and shift and move a little bit better because they don't have to do it in such a quick, at such a rapid rate. When you look at things like joint injuries, ankle injuries, stuff like that, it could be a little bit more rough for the tight end because the tight end has to not only plant that foot the way that a wide receiver does, but then they have to take on another 250 to 300 pound man and dig into the turf, dig into the ground, take that pressure, those shear forces. So in theory, right, theoretically, they're at a higher, the tight ends are at one of the positions that get injured the most, actually. They're right up there. They're right up there with even more so than running backs. So they get injured a lot. When it comes to soft tissue stuff, like with George Kittle in particular, it's not necessarily so much different, especially when they have an offseason to prep for it. And especially this specific injury that George Kittle suffered. And then now the surgery is actually pretty successful. Before OBJ had this surgery, he would get chronic groin stuff. Kittle's been dealing with chronic groin stuff for a few years now. This is actually Rashad Bateman, right? He had this surgery. This is actually a pretty successful surgery in rehab. So when it comes to George Kittle specifically being on track for training camp, I do think that this is going to be, I think that fantasy players should, they should be relatively optimistic. Obviously, you can always have setbacks. The failure rate or the success rate isn't 100%. So you do want to watch a guy like George Kittle through camp. But generally speaking, this is good news for George Kittle. And I don't know, compadre, I want to hear your thoughts here because I've seen both sides on George Kittle. Oh, George Kittle's boom bust. And then I saw a chart the other day. I wish I could remember who it was. I always do this. I just need to start saving the tweets. I want to say it was Jared Smola. He tweeted about tight ends and I think success rate or open rate or something like that from the ESPN stat. And George Kittle was miles ahead of the next best guy. So I don't know what that means. I still think that offense is still going to be unpredictable. If Ayuk comes back, Devo's still there. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, right? The Lord and Savior here of this Denver area that I live in. Christian McCaffrey's still there. You have the next generation of is he elite? Brock Purdy there. The defense is going to be good like it always is. I just don't know. Again, I don't know if George Kittle is going to be one of those guys that I want to draft, even if he's healthy, even if he's damn good, and he is good.
Well, I mean, he was one of the few. I mean, he got 1,000 yards. Sam LaPorta didn't get 1,000 yards. Travis Kelce didn't get 1,000 yards out of the tight end position. So there were two guys on that offense who got 1,000 yards. It's an explosive offense. To me, I look at the fact that he's never going to see double team, because you can't double team him, and you got Brandon Ayuk on one side and Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. So you can't double team even one of them, because you're going to leave somebody open. He's got one of the most explosive rates. I believe he's got the most 20-yard plays of any tight end. So those explosive plays a lot of times end in touchdowns. So I like him where he's going. He's he's going off in underdog drafts. He's going off in the round 6, tight end 7. And I think some people are kind of worried about this core muscle surgery that he had. I mean, when you talk about the success rate on that, also on the Familia FFB podcast, I've been doing an NFL Insider series. After you like and subscribe this, like and subscribe that. But I've been talking to beat writers, podcasters, broadcasters, one for every 32 teams. I'm in the low 20s right now. And I just talked to Cam Inman, who covers them for the Bay Area News Group, and he said he was moving around, well. They were kind of protecting him at OTAs and minicamp, but that everything has been positives, that he's looking ahead, and that he's not taking it as, it's not normally player speak with him where they're all like they're doing great. George is an open and honest person, so when he says he's feeling good, take it to the bank. So I like what you're saying. I like where he's going, especially if you want to stack him with Purdy, that's great. And I know we don't project too far out, but week 17, which all of our best ball bros love to point toward, shout out JJ Saccarison, they play the Lions. And that's good. And we saw that in the NFC Championship. With that was a carnival game. We're going to see another carnival game. Hopefully, week 17 on Monday Night Football. Can you imagine how many championships are going to go? And he could be one of the guys that does well in that game. So
I kind of have a stance on the week 15, 16, 17 bros. I, as an injury guy, and this is totally off script here, so I'll try to keep it brief.
Let's do it.
I understand. I'm a data guy, right? Like, my job is primarily data because I don't evaluate these guys. I don't look at them physically. I don't have hands on them. I don't have eyes on them. So what I do is project my experience working with the injuries, but it's very data centric. If you've been around for a while, you know that. So when I look at the data, I hear it, I see it, I understand. Yes, your probabilities of getting, stacks in week 15 and then stacks in 16, 17, obviously, I understand that. Last year, we did the same thing with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. The Bengals and the Chiefs, right? Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Burrow. Oh, week 17. Well, what happened? Joe Burrow got hurt. The Bengals fell off. Jamar Chase had a ribs injury during that. I went to that game. Jamar Chase had an injury during that game. Didn't really look like himself. I think there's just too much stock. You should directionally, and this is my advice because from an injury guy, directionally, you should try to stack week 15, 16, 17. Obviously, you have to get there. You should try to directionally stack, but do not put all your eggs in one basket, because you have to understand the NFL has a 98% injury rate. And so if you strategize and gamify just for the last 3 weeks of the season, which I understand are the most important, you are missing the boat. And what I would say is just diversify, right? Get a couple, like, for example, last year, not that anybody could have predicted this, but getting a handful more shares of Joe Mixon, getting a handful more shares of nobody could predict this specific one, but like Jake Browning, right? Diversifying that. If you're really going to gamify towards that would be my advice, because guys get injured, injuries happen. There's nothing guaranteed today that is going to happen in week 1. There are going to be guys who get injured before week 1. So just, again, diversify, play smart. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. We always frame the season as if we know exactly what's going to happen and everything's static. It's not. It's dynamic. It's constantly changing. Just make sure that you draft that way.
I love it. I'm clipping that. I'm clipping that. That's fantastic. One thing that I do look at that point, I look at 2 things. Offensive environment. Are these good offenses playing in those big weeks? and I'm also looking at where are they playing. If I've got a dome team, are they home during that time? And I mean, the Detroit Lions are a prime example. And one of the things that really is scary for them is they're playing in Chicago in week 16, which it's been that has been Jared Goff's kryptonite, is playing Chicago in December. So that's why I'm going to start recommending quarterback platoons, but I do like looking at that point. But you're right, so many things can happen at that point, before then. And if you put all, if you've got one team and you put all your eggs let's say last year you put all your eggs into the Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson stack, and it got blown up in week 8. What do you do then? So, I mean, you want to have contingency plans, but yeah, offensive environment and weather. So that sometimes is the if I'm close on something, I'm going to look at a dome game like Rams and Cardinals in week 17 rather than a game in Buffalo. I think Buffalo is playing the Jets that week. Where I only want Josh Allen and Garrett Wilson, maybe. Oh, compa, I love it. I think I'm gonna clip part of that and send it out on Twitter. So, okay, okay, we're thumbs up. So I want to ask about TJ Hockenson on this next one. So he's a guy torn double injury here, torn ACL and MCL, happened on December 27th. He did not have surgery because they wanted to have his MCL heal up. Did not have surgery until January 29th of this year. So, we had the reports that he was ahead of schedule. I always kind of laugh at those when those, because I always, you can always set your clock by there being a setback when the guys are ahead of schedule. But when a guy's multi-ligament, I want to tee you up on this one. We're talking more than the minimum 9 months, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that we're talking more than the minimum, but I think when we look at it from a timestamp perspective for TJ Hockenson, and I literally just wrote about this this weekend or I guess, geez, we're already at the weekend, so I guess it would have been in the last few days. My week's all turned upside down, especially with the holiday. What you have to remember is that the precedent is that, for example, Rob Gronkowski came back at 8 months in 2014. He had surgery in January, came back 8 months later, was ready for week 1. He also didn't play more than 60% of the snaps until week 5. If we extrapolate, though, let's say, just for, to be devil's advocates, let's say that TJ Hockenson can return, and he does so in 8 months. For TJ Hockenson, we are specifically looking, and I have it right here in front of me. I'm going to pull it up, right? The problem is that even at 8 months, that still leaves plenty of room and reason to start TJ Hockenson on the PUP and not return until week 5 on October 6th. So that would still leave you 4 zeros in best ball. So I just don't see it. Now, you also can look at the precedent for tight ends that come back and what does the performance look like? I know a lot of the questions are, what is his performance going to look like? Well, let's say he does come back at 8 months. He's probably not going to play more than 50% of the snaps for another month, right? So you're really looking at a risk of missing, having 4 zeros for TJ Hockenson with an additional 5, 6, 7, 8 point performance for another 3 or 4 weeks. So at best, he can come back by, like I've said in the article, like Halloween-ish is when you can probably actually expect him to be back and performing. So I just don't view TJ Hockenson as a good bet in best ball specifically. I think at best, he's like a stash. Once you're, somebody's going to draft him in the 13th, 14th round of one of your drafts. And then I think it's going to be week 3 or 4, and they're going to end up dropping him. And if you're sitting there and you're, if you're 4-1 or whatever, you're 5-0 at that point, then yes, you can drop a guy that obviously isn't going to do anything for you, and you can put him on your IR and stash him in season-long leagues.
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now. That's Halloween. Well, November 3rd would be the first game after Halloween, and that's week 9. So
you want to wait that long? Go for it. I'm certainly not.
It doesn't make sense. And that's assuming everything goes right. And how often does everything go right on multi-ligament surgery for a guy to be back and performing at 9 months?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, is he going to have soft tissue stuff? Is he going to have persistent swelling? There's always risk for complications. Like, this is not just you get surgery, you're done. A lot of people like it. Analysts will come out and say on their podcast with no medical background, oh, ACLs are this new and amazing thing. We still have like 40 to 50% of guys who don't ever come back from an ACL. You still have persistent swelling. You still have potential surgical complications. You still have to build back up from where you were. And that's why being a hyper efficient, like hyper top 5 percentile athlete helps so much, because you're already starting at, you're starting on third base there. So, all that to say, he's not a bad stash in season-long leagues, like I said, but I don't think I could take that many zeros and live within best ball.
Yeah, to me, he's only a dynasty play, to tell you the truth. I want to take a discount on him. If I'm a rebuilding team, I want to take him and build for next year, for 2025. But I'm not. I think for redraft, he's going off at. I mean, he's kind of a bargain. He's tight end 14, going the 12th round. Pick number 133, but. I don't know.
I like the idea too, compadre, when another thing analysts say is like, oh, at that value, at that price. Well, the flip side of that argument is sometimes you get what you pay for. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the case with TJ Hockenson.
Perfecto. That's the exclamation point right there. I think I nailed it. All right.
I'm about to tweet that. Go ahead. Keep going.
I love it. Well, you know what? Sam LaPorta. This one could be a quick one, but he's definitely a player who's got huge fantasy upside. He's the tight end 1 going off on drafts. He's not my tight end 1. I'm still going Kelsey, not because of Taylor Swift, but not because Taylor Swift told me, but I think to me it's Travis Kelce is still the primary target for Patrick Mahomes, and Sam LaPorta is the number 2 target in a very good offense. But he hurt his knee in week 18 last year. Some thought it was an ACL. It ended up being a knee hyperextension. He was limited in snaps for round 1 of the playoffs. Then he played the next 2 games, had 9 receptions in each game. So he played well. Definitely was. I think he had shed the brace by the third game. There are no reports of him missing time. Now, we also know that the hyperextended knee kind of stuck with Travis Kelce most of last season and kind of slowed him down. I got word from Mike Payton, who's a beat writer for A to Z Sports, who is credentialed and with the team, said he was practicing at minicamp. But how, for a knee hyperextension, especially for a big guy, could it be something that lingers?
It could be. The best example that we have of a guy that had a non-surgical PCL issue that was roughly his size is Dalton Schultz in 2022. And that is something to consider, right? Dalton Schultz was, he was fine down the stretch after that. These injuries, these PCL injuries, they do tend to heal well on their own. We're assuming, of course, right? When you get a hyperextension, it can be 2 primary things. Number 1 is a PCL. Number 2 is a bone bruise. Bone bruises, that's what Travis Kelce had like the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Those MFers are painful. Those are hard to bounce back from quickly. There's not a lot that you can do other than, give it time. So those are really tough to come by. With the time that he's had, with his age and with how athletic he is, I don't think this is going to be something that lingers for TJ Hockenson, but he certainly does, it adds like a 3 to 5%, arbitrary 3 to 5% chance of re-injury. But again, these injuries happen. Guys hyperextend their knees. It's not necessarily the least common injury in the world. So I just don't know. I know maybe you said it, maybe it's in here, compadre. What is his ADP right now? You have it right here. Underdog tight end 1.
Yes.
Are we serious? Woo!
Yeah.
My goodness.
Tight end 1 going in the 3rd round.
Is he going prior to Anthony Richardson?
Yes, he's going prior to.
Not sold. Give me Anthony Richardson. Give me Josh Allen. I'm going before I go Sam LaPorta. I'm sorry, and that's not because of the injury, but I want to get yours.
I'm passing him because I think there's still a good wide receivers going in that round, and if I want to get a hero running back at a Derrick Henry, and if I go receiver, and I could get Derrick Henry in the 3rd round. I'm going. I do that before LaPorta. Plus, then I get a 1-round discount and get Travis Kelce, who I think is still going to catch 100 balls and go over 1,000 yards. After talking about to Joshua Briscoe of Sports Illustrated, he just was effusive that Travis Kelce is still the number one target for Patrick Mahomes in what's going to be a better offense, because you got two guys who can absolutely fly in Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, who are going to open up the middle of the field. So that's why I love LaPorta. I think it's a phenomenal offensive ecosystem. Matt Harmon, you drink on that one. But he's still the number two target. It's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's the number one guy. And LaPorta is going to get pushed by Jahmyr Gibbs for, I don't think LaPorta will get 80 to 90 receptions, but I want a receiver in that round, and I'm going to get Travis Kelce in the round after that. But no health concerns though. That's the one thing for those who want to take that.
Yep, minimal health concerns.
Awesome. Well, one guy that we practically talked about real time last year was Mark Andrews, and that one was a gruesome injury, hip drop tackle. Thank you for getting rid of that, NFL. Let's see fewer injuries. Injured on November 16th of last year, cracked fibula and ankle ligament. But he came back with limited snaps in the AFC Championship, like you said. If you want to go back, and that was like your target, possibly come back, and then if they made it to the Super Bowl, obviously they didn't make it to the Super Bowl. But when you look at that, can we consider that injury now in the past with enough time that's gone by, and is there anything that we have to keep an eye on for training camp?
No, I mean, now I have like nightmares about discussing this specific injury, because it was a Tony Pollard injury that everybody, but also if you look at some of Tony Pollard's numbers towards the end, he just ended up, JJ actually did in the season, JJ Zachariason did a good job of summarizing this. Like if he would have scored something like down the stretch, if he would have scored like expected touchdowns, like 3 touchdowns in 4 games or something, right. He would have like shot up to like 5 more spots or something. So it's not like he was a disaster. He just didn't pay off for his, like, what was it, like at the time it was like RB2 or 3 price tag or something like that.
It was
I don't
RB2.
remember what it was.
It was an RB2 price tag.
He obviously didn't pay that off, but he also wasn't like terrible pick. But anyway, this injury is very similar, but yes, there's going to be so much time for him to come back, so much time for him to rehab. And the best precedent we have for this is actually a guy we talked about before already, TJ Hockenson, who in 2020 had this, not the exact same injury, but a relatively similar injury. I think it was more severe for Hockenson. Right. Hockenson actually ended up having a pretty good season that year. He ended up, let's see here. It's like 95 receptions, 1,000 receiving yards. No, that was definitely last year for Hockenson. I'm reading the wrong one.
I know the year 2021. He had a couple of blow up games in that season.
67, 723 and 6, and he played all 16 games. So that was TJ Hockenson. So I would not be concerned about Mark Andrews. Again, on average, super good athlete, very good at the position. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. They still want to probably throw him some seam balls. So I would still be drafting Mark. I would be drafting Mark Andrews before I draft Sam LaPorta at tight end. So this is something that you shouldn't necessarily on average be that concerned about.
He's going behind Dalton Kincaid, which up until I talked to my Bills guy, Greg Thompson, I thought was crazy now, but I still look at Mark Andrews as the primary target for Lamar Jackson. I know Zay Flowers played really well there at the end, but I think things are going to even out, and I think Andrews is real. Give me 17 games out of 17 games out of Mark Andrews, and I think at the very least he's top 3 tight end, maybe even, but fighting for top 1. So, all day long. Yeah, tight end 5 right now, going number 51, ADP of 51. But yeah, still the target, the top 2 target. So, all right, compa. Last one, and this one could be quick just because of the timing of the injury. Tyler Higbee had a severe torn ACL, MCL. It happened in round 1 of the playoffs. He did not have surgery until February 28th. So I mean, could we be talking about the season? I mean, the 9 months is Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we really could be talking about the season. He's not a spring chicken. If TJ Hockenson's going to come back, October, at best, and be productive in the final weeks of October at best, like we're probably talking the whole season with Tyler Higbee. But you had some a little bit of information about who we perhaps could be sneaking into the conversation at tight end for a value. What say you?
From amigos, amigas, little secret told to me by Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic. Davis Allen. Remember the name. Davis Allen. Okay? Davis
like
Allen. That. She talked about the fact that last year that Puka Nacua started to take a significant mental workload. And then this year she used that same term. In fact, she on the Familia FFP podcast, she yelled significant mental workload for Davis Allen. So he's not going to be a top 2 target. He may be the number 4 target, but he really flashed there at the end of the season. He had a couple games there. I think it was one against the Ravens in that carnival game. And so I think he's someone to keep an eye on.
I think I lost you, compadre.
The mute. I muted myself.
Magic mute.
I thought my dog came into the room, so I was worried that I was gonna have to tell him to get out of here, perro. But compa, let's get into a little cultura class to close things out. So I had the pleasure on July 1st to work at the Jaime Blanca Jarrin Foundation Gala event at Dodger Stadium. So I mean, it was a great honor. I mean, the Jarrin family has been incredible for me, given me some lifetime memories that for me and my familia. I'm always indebted to them. I consider them familia, and I'm always honored that they bring me on. I wanted to kind of talk to the fact that to the people that are very special for the Latino community, especially in LA, but really everywhere. Jaime Jarrin and Fernando Valenzuela. Fernando. I mean, Edwin. I know it was before your time, but. I know you've heard the legend. I lived the legend. I went to games. I saw him throw a shutout. It's still the most electric time I've ever seen in a baseball stadium in almost 50 years of following baseball. But to me, it was special. These people are special, and I think they're special to our community because they showed us the way. And they showed people that looked like us in these kind of prominent positions. So I wanted to say, I want to start with you. How much does that mean to you to see that kind of representation on these stages to help these dreams, to help start these dreams of one day?
Of course, yeah. No, this is obviously like a very complicated topic, but for the most part, people can probably relate to it. Like, have you ever seen somebody from your hometown on TV, or have you ever seen an athlete that you played against or played with on TV, or have you ever seen somebody, if you're a person of color, like have you ever seen somebody that is your specific ethnicity, doing something big and getting recognition or whatever the case may be? And maybe it's the opposite. Have you ever seen athletes you played with getting arrested, right? Like there's always some form of subconscious absorption that you do when it's somebody that you recognize and can identify with. And it's super important for people and kids in general to even know that that's a possibility. So, for me, being I am the only Mexican-American Latin fantasy football analyst in general. Maybe I'm missing, obviously, other than you. Maybe we're missing a handful.
I think it's just you and me doing it in English, compa.
Dude, here we are in Inglés.
Liz Loza is peruana.
Yeah, we got to hit the SAT button. But it's important just because the representation makes you feel accepted, makes you feel like it's something that you deserve to be in. It makes you feel, a sense of belonging. And there's actually research to show that people who feel a sense of belonging and community, regardless of where they're at, they tend to have a higher quality of life. They live longer, and they're generally happier people. So feeling like you belong is huge. And so that's what it means for me. And that's what we're sort of trying to do, even with shout out Chris Allen and the barbecue, the fantasy football barbecue group that we're in, the cookout. Sorry, the cookout that we're in. That's really what we're striving for, is to just continue to create this representation. And it works in baseball, works in football. Dude, we're still looking for that NFL, that pipeline, that Mexican pipeline. One of these days, we're gonna we're gonna get Patricio Mahomes, but hopefully, but we haven't got there yet. But that's sort of what it means to me.
And it's so true. And I actually get to thank both Jaime and Fernando. I want to say, since we're both Latinos, I don't want to Englishize his name, but I got to tell them thank you for para enseñarnos para enseñarnos el camino, showing us the road. And that to me was great. And to be a part of it, and actually to see what Don Jaime is doing, because he's raising money for scholarships for young underrepresented people. And I saw 9 of the scholars. They're all Latino. They're all got big dreams of working in communications, broadcasting, journalism, law, and accomplished young people, and they're so grateful for this opportunity. Some of them are getting the opportunity to actually go to college because of this scholarship. So Don Jaime, le agradezco por la oportunidad de abrir esas puertas. Thank you for opening those doors. Fernando, thank you for showing us that Mexicans could do it on the big stage of the major leagues. And yeah, it's funny. Don Jaime often said that other than Babe Ruth, El Toro Valenzuela made the most baseball fans, and it's true. My family, my familia, we're big, and we're full of Dodger fans, and probably about half of them are because of El Toro Valenzuela, El Toro Fernando Valenzuela. So yeah, but yeah, and that's why I think we got to keep doing this, because we're showing the way, and we're paving the way for other people to hand it off and make it easier for them. And that's why it's great what Chris is doing, pulling together the cookout group, because we're stronger in number, we're stronger together, passing along that message. So vámonos, compa. Let's close up shop.
We didn't talk much tits today.
Tequila injuries and tacos. So
yeah, as my compadre turns bright red right now when I say that. Yes, tits, tequila, injuries, tacos. That is where we're at. Get your mind out of the gutter, people. That's not what we meant. So yeah, that's going to be our new tagline. If somebody out there is talented enough to create a funny tits tagline, little Canva drawing or something, that would be hilarious. But yes, that is going to be our new slogan moving forward. We'll try not to say it too often, because perhaps some of you are listening with children in the room, but it's a little quirky little thing that my compadre came up with that I think is actually hilarious.
I think at the expo we find Casey Kasem and see if her Etsy shop can put together
some shirts out there.
So.
That's right. And by the way, people have been DMing me. People have DM'd me. I don't know if I told you this, compadre. Many people have actually over the last year or so DM'd me on Twitter and asked for my tequila list that I'm working through. If you want that tequila list, shoot me a DM on Twitter. I read those and I do my best to answer all of them. And especially if you ask me for the tequila list, I'll just like drag and drop that right away, so you can stop drinking. The worst that I had, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to put you on blast with your handle here, but somebody said that their wife bought Jose Cuervo. Yes, Jose Cuervo is the longest running tequila business. No, Jose Cuervo is not a quality tequila in the year 2024. Please, you like what you like, but I would try other tequilas before you resort to Jose Cuervo, okay? So yes, if you want that tequila list, let me know.
Yeah. Please, no, don't do that to yourself. Don't even put it in your margarita. Por favor, don't even put it in your margarita. So, because I'm gonna close the show. I'm gonna close the show with something. Oh, but let's also make sure, amigos and amigas, we're working on the injury prone draft guide and playbook. Okay, so we're in the lab getting that together. So you're gonna be ready to pre-order it. You two, everybody. I'm gonna put it in the show notes. Get with the link on where you can order it. But no, it's gonna be out late July, early August. So get you ready for your draft. Compa, anything fun coming up on Pro Athlete PT?
Nope, just follow the podcast, Pro Athlete PT. It's Pro Athlete Physical Therapy. The podcast is actually what it is. Go to my Instagram at Pro Athlete PT. Follow me there at FB Injury Doc for all the fantasy related stuff. That's all I got, compadre. I've taken enough time. Thank you.
Oh no. Well, for me, go to other than here, Also, make sure you're following the NFL Insider Series on Familia FFB. I'm about about 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way through all 32 NFL teams. So quick profiles, just kind of like this one right now, and all fantasy relevant. The people have been coming back. It's been phenomenal. The insight that's coming through that is spilling into this podcast too. So you got me at Jorge Martin 17 otra vez at FB Injury Doc for Edwin. And one thing to remember, and it's really, really telling considering what Edwin just said. Life is too short to drink bad tequila. Vámonos, compa. Salud.